Good evening. Oh, Faith is here. We have Christina and Sammy and now Faith and Dragons of Blueland chapters 2 through 4 ready to get started. Give me a thumbs up if you can see me okay. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. Give me a comment if I need to make some changes. So if I need to try to adjust something. I don't ever know like how I look or how I sound. So we'll just see what we can do here. So today was a little bit different because we did our Zoom in the afternoon instead of the morning because we did a junior thesis. That's where the juniors write this really long paper and then they present it in front of a panel, and the panel asks questions and they have to defend what they wrote, meaning answer questions about the long paper they wrote. And this morning was TJ's and it was excellent. So tomorrow we have 2 more I have to go to and help film. Not actually go to, but help with the Zoom call of it. Potato chips. That sounds yummy. I think Mr. Baker made us sausage dogs for tonight. So when we're done here, I'm going to go eat dinner because I haven't done that yet. Okay. It's 7:02. So I noticed that we have 3 friends here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with book 3, Dragons of Blueland, chapter 2. Okay. So right now we know that the dragon has left Elmer at home with his family, and he flew through the town and past a yellow barn and yellow house, and he's trying not to be seen, and he ended up falling asleep in a culvert, which is that big old round tube thing that's under the road to help water pass through. So can you hear me okay, Sammy? Can everybody hear me okay? I don't know if it's working or not. It's not acting like it's working, but I guess it's okay. So chapter 2 is Mr. and Miss Wagon Wheel. So you can hear me? Good. Here we go. Mr. and Miss Wagon Wheel, chapter 2. There we go. So he was worried about being seen as he flew to the culvert. But someone had seen the dragon. At least he was sure he'd seen something blue and yellow and gold galloping down the road. It was Mr. Wagon Wheel, the farmer living in the yellow farmhouse, who had just been closing his window as the dragon ran past. "What's that galloping noise?" asked Miss Wagon Wheel, sitting up in bed. "A large blue monster just ran by, and after breakfast, I'm going to find out all about it," yelled Mr. Wagon Wheel, jumping into his clothes and rushing off to put the cows in the barn for milking. Mrs. Wagon Wheel, meanwhile, made pancakes and coffee, but forgot to boil the eggs. She was horribly upset at the thought of a monster rushing past her house at 5 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Wagon Wheel hurried through the milking, let the cows into the pasture, and dashed back to the kitchen. He was anxious to eat and be off after the blue demon, as he had decided to call it, whatever it was. He swallowed a pancake whole and banged 2 eggs on the side of his cup. Splop! Raw egg flew all over the table, and Mrs. Wagon Wheel had forgotten to boil the eggs, of course. Have you ever had hard-boiled eggs? Yeah, when you crack them on the table, they don't splat. But if you crack a regular egg, when you hit it on the table, it's going to splat. So what a surprise for Mr. Wagon Wheel. "Oh, Martha, what's the matter with you?" yelled Mr. Wagon Wheel. "Oh, I'm sorry," said Mrs. Wagon Wheel. "I'm so upset about that horrible monster. I don't know what I'm doing." And she nervously slipped a pancake instead of her handkerchief into her apron pocket. She's making mistakes everywhere. "Well, boil more eggs," roared Mr. Wagon Wheel, going to the sink to wash off his face and hands and shirts and overalls. Now, Mr. Wagon Wheel liked his eggs hard, very hard, and as he waited for them to get very hard, it began to rain. It was only a drizzle rain, but enough to wash away the dragon's footprints in the dusty road. Whew! Drat, 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 thundered Mr. Wagon Wheel, looking out the window. It's raining! I thought we needed reindeer, said Mrs. Wagon Wheel. We do, but why can't it wait until I capture the blue demon? Now I may never find him. Maybe it's just as well, said Mrs. Wagon Wheel, carefully putting a spoonful of salt in her coffee. Salt in her coffee? Well, I can see you have no spirit of adventure, grumped Mr. Wagon Wheel, peeling his at last ready, very hard eggs. He picked up his rifle, a strong rope, and put on his raincoat and boots. I'm off, he yelled, and slammed the door. He'll never come back, thought Mrs. Wagon Wheel, and she quietly sat down to cry. She's so distraught that she put a pancake in her pocket instead of her handkerchief. And now she's worried that Mr. Wagon Wheel will never come back. Mr. Wagon Wheel ran down the road, pouncing on bushes, peering behind trees, and examining roadside ditches, yelling all the while, Coming! Ready or not! He made such a racket that the cows heard him in plenty of time. They huddled around the big culvert where the baby dragon was hiding and pretended to be busy drinking water, for they had found the sleeping dragon while Mr. Wagon Wheel was eating his very hard eggs. Wake up, they had said, and tell us what you are and what you're doing in our culvert. The dragon woke up with a start and then smiled at the friendly cows. I'm a baby dragon, he explained, and I'm on my way home to get to the great high mountains of Blueland. But what are you doing in our culvert? Asked a cow. I'm hiding. So here we have him on the hunt. And here we have the cows talking to our little dragon. I'm hiding. You see, most people think that there are no dragons left, and if I should be captured, I'd surely end up in a zoo or a circus and never get home again. Shh, said another cow. I think I hear Mr. Wagon Wheel now. All through milking time, he was muttering about catching a blue demon. He must have meant you. It was then that the cows huddled around the opening to the culvert, and the dragon crouched down on his stomach in the water. The culvert, yelled Mr. Wagon Wheel, brandishing his rifle. An excellent hiding place for the blue demon. And he started down the bank on the other side of the road. It's all over now, thought the dragon. Who could tell where the farmer was from the noise he was making? But just then Mr. Wagon Wheel looked across the road at his peaceful cows and thought, my cows would be in a panic if the demon were hiding there. He turned back up the bank and ran down the road, beating the bushes and peering behind trees. Who just saved the dragon's life? The cows grazed nearby all day long, talking to the dragon and telling him when it was safe to come out of the culvert. Toward evening, they heard Mr. Wagon Wheel stamping back along the road, yelling, Hoopla! All of you, into the barn! And as they wandered off, they quietly warned the dragon, leave just as soon as he goes to the barn. It's just like him to be out looking for you by flashlight after supper. And they were right. Long after the dragon had flown far beyond the yellow farmhouse and culvert, Mr. Wagon Wheel was shooting into bushes. Mrs. Wagon Wheel was in bed with a case of nerves. Here he is, shooting into the bushes while Mrs. Wagon Wheel's asleep, nervous as can be. Hey, Hudson, if you're here tonight, Aunt Carrie loves you. Hope you enjoy the show. Chapter 3, The Men on the Slope. What is that? Looks like a little city, sort of, kind of. So he escaped the farmer from the culvert because the cow saved his life. It's a lovely night for flying, thought the dragon as he hurried toward the north, urged on by cool, brisk winds. The rain had stopped long ago, and a crescent moon shone palely. A crescent is like the moon that you would kind of see that's kind of like a, Mr. Baker calls it God's fingernail, because it looked kind of like a fingernail clipping, but that's a crescent moon. Looking down, he could see the outline of Seaweed Bay and then a point of land called Due East Lookout. At this point, he must turn and fly directly westward over the Seaweed City, across Spiky Mountain Range, and over awful desert to reach the Blueland Mountains and the heart of the desert. Many people had tried to cross the desert and climb these mountains, but there was no water, and treacherous sandstorms raged all year round, making traveling almost impossible. So far, no man had succeeded. It won't be long now, sang the baby dragon as he passed over Seaweed City, over the coastal Spiky Mountain Range, and then started over awful desert beyond. What a lovely night, he thought again. And then all of a sudden, he realized how clear it was over the desert. Where are the sandstorms? Yes, where are the sandstorms? A sick feeling came over him. In weather like this, a man might be able to cross the desert into Blueland, might see one of the dragon family and learn the dragon's secret that dragons still live in Blueland. Faster and faster he flew, and way up ahead he saw a tiny light where the mountains rose straight up out of the desert. Men, thought the dragon, if only I'm in time to warm my family. Onward he sped until he could see that the light was the blaze of a campfire on the rocky mountain slope. So here he is coming in, and he's going to see a campfire. I think you can barely see it. He counted 4 or 5 men sitting around the campfire. I'd better find out what they're planning to do so I'll know how to save my family, thought the dragon, circling down and landing below the men. He carefully picked his way through the huge rocks on the slope and hid close enough to hear what the men were saying. If Frank and Albert and the rest don't find water soon, we're sunk. We'll have to get back pretty quick. And what if the weather changes? After all, this is the first time, so far as anybody knows, that the weather has ever been clear over the desert, and I don't trust it to last very long. Me neither, said another voice. Just then they heard a shout farther up the slope, and a man came running down toward the fire. Did you find water? They asked him. Water? Loads of it! The mountains form a circle, and all of the streams from these mountains flow toward the center to make a tremendous lake. But that's not all we found. You mean you found evidence that the great dragons of Blueland actually did exist at one time? Evidence, said the man who had run down the slope. Evidence? Why, we've got 15 of the most beautiful dragons you ever dreamed of trapped in a cave that seems to have only one entrance. The rest of the men are guarding it. Oh no! Little Dragon's family trapped. 15 trapped in the cave, moaned the baby dragon. Why, that's my whole family. My 6 sisters, 7 brothers, and my dear gigantic mother and father. I'm the only one left to save them. But why didn't they fly away? He listened to the men again. How do you know you have 15 in a cave? We took them by surprise. They were asleep at the entrance, and when they saw us, they rushed inside. What a sight! 15 dragons? One of the men whistled. What did they look like? They went so fast it was hard to see, but there was one huge blue one, a big yellow one, about 5 smaller green ones, and the rest were blue and yellow. They all had red horns and feet and gold colored wings. I can't wait, said one of the men. Why, every zoo in the country will want one. Oh no, groaned the horrific baby dragon, hiding behind the rocks. That's all of chapter 3. Our poor, distraught baby dragon has just realized that his entire family is trapped in a cave, and all they want to do is put him in the zoo. Chapter 4, in the cave. As the men went about packing up knapsacks and putting out the fire, the dragon carefully crept up the mountain slope. It's a good thing they don't know that the cave does have another entrance, but I wonder if I can still squeeze through it. It was the tunnel through which they had gone when he ran away to sit on the cloud. At that time, only he and his 2 youngest sisters were small enough to fit into it. Maybe, just maybe, I can still get through, he thought. He hurried up the dry, rocky slope of the mountain, racing to get to the tunnel before the sun broke over the rim of the desert. I've got to rescue them, he thought frantically. Over the gap between 2 snow-capped peaks he galloped, and then down into the beautiful green alpine meadows in the center of the mountain circle. Here, streams babbled down the slopes to a bottomless lake. Masses of wildflowers, gentians, butterfly weed, painted cup, all colors paraded along the brooksides. In the pastures everywhere were gigantic snapdragon plants looking down like bushes, then flowers. But the dragon did not have time to stop and gaze at his beautiful home in the great high mountains of Blueland. Already the sun was reaching over the horizon, lighting up the sky. This is a double page. So here we have, here's the dragon coming. There's the men sitting around the cave, the campfire. Here it is, he panted, and he dove into a thick clump of snapdragons growing over the entrance to the small tunnel. He had seen the men across the lake guarding the cave with an enormous net. I wish I knew what they're planning to do next, he thought, but it's too late now. I'll have to wait until dark. Here he is. Sorry, hiding behind the snapdragon. Snapdragons are pretty flowers. You can still find them. He tried to pass into the tunnel, but the roots of the snapdragons had grown over the entrance and the dirt had washed in from above. Dig carefully. They might notice the stir in the bushes, he warned himself as he cleared the way. At last he could fit into the hole, and he started the long trip through the tunnel. I might get stuck at any moment, he groaned as the tunnel turned corners and gradually dug deeper into the side of the mountain, always only just big enough for him to squeeze through. On and on he crawled, and just when he thought he could surely get to the large part of the cave, he got stuck. He pushed and wiggled, but he could not get through. Tears rolled down his blue cheeks. I want so badly to see my family, he sniffled. But maybe they're near enough to hear me now. And he whispered, Mother, Father, are you there? Who's that? Asked a voice that sounded like his sister Eustasia's. It's Boris, cried his mother. Oh, Boris, Boris. We know his name now. It's Boris. We thought we'd never see you again. Come on into the cave. We're in terrible danger. So Boris is spelled B-O. Let's see if I can type it for you. Oh, Boris is here. Boris the dragon. I know, said Boris the dragon, but I can't squeeze through the tunnel. Oh, I do wish I could. But listen, whatever you do, don't go near the main entrance to the cave. Many men are sitting, waiting there with an enormous net. I don't know yet what they plan to do with it, but I'll try to find out tonight if nothing happens before then. I think they're afraid to come in and get you. They don't know how harmless we really are. Anyway, keep calm and count on me. I have a friend who may be able to help. And if you don't hear from me soon, it'll be because I've gone off to get him. Who could he be going for? Who's the friend that could help rescue dragons? Now I'll have to come back again. Now I'll have to back out again. I must stay near the tunnel entrance so I can get out easily when I have a chance. So goodbye. So here he is. Here's the picture of the mom and Eustacia, his sister. And here we have Boris trying to squeeze into the tunnel, but he can't quite get to the cave. He's stuck. So he's going to back out and go get some help. So he has said goodbye to his family, but he's going to get help. And Boris backed out for what seemed like hours and hours until he came out among the roots of the snapdragon bushes. He peered through the leaves across the lake and counted 16 men standing in a row outside the cave. A breeze sprang up across the lake and carried their voices over the water to him. They'll come out when they get hungry enough, said one man. But how do you know they won't be fiercer when they're hungry and have been trapped for some time? Me? I'd rather go in after them right now. Go in after them, said a third man. Why, we don't even know anything about that cave. Suppose it does have more entrances. The dragons may have escaped already. And what about pitfalls and rock slides in there? We ought to know more about this. No, the thing to do is to leave 10 men here on guard and send the other 6 to search for other entrances and to have a look at the rock formation around here. So leave 10 on guard and 6 to go hunt out other entrances. Good idea, said the man who had come down the mountain to the campfire. The wind changed and the dragon could only hear confused sounds of talking, but the men seemed to be deciding who would stay and who would go. They'll find me for sure if I stay here, and I don't want to trap myself too, thought the dragon. Daylight or no, I'd better fly and get Elmer. He'll know what to do and if we can get back in time. Quickly, he fitted the snapdragon roots over the tunnel hole, arranging them carefully so they wouldn't look newly dug up. Then, keeping close to the ground, he crept through the green meadows and up to the gap between the mountain peaks. He took one last look at the beautiful blue lake surrounded by the green meadows. felt quite sure he hadn't been seen, and then plunged down the rocky slope on the other side. Up in the air he flew, shielded from the eyes of the men by the circle of mountains. And that's all of chapter 4. The poor little dragon has made the long journey back to Blueland mountains and realizes his family is in a serious, serious problem. So his only hope is to go back to the one who helped him before. Who's the dragon rescuer? Elmer. So Boris the dragon is flying back to get Elmer. And then they're going to go back, hopefully, and rescue his family. So that's all for this week. Ding dong, the chapter's done. So we will pick up again on Tuesday night, and we will do chapters 5, 6, and 7. Is that right? 5, 6, 7. And then we will finish it probably Wednesday or Thursday. And then we'll have to start a new book. So, Dragons of Blueland, next chapter, Tuesday night. Second grade, I will Zoom with you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Hudson, I hope you're having a great day and hope to see y'all soon. I love you guys. Have a great weekend and enjoy time with your family. Do something fun and exciting and enjoy this time together. Love y'all. Have a good evening. See you soon. Bye. Love you guys. Bye, bye, bye.